think I can cover all the different, I would say, mistakes or misunderstandings in terms of what are the most frequent disconnects when it comes to be in the new role of the CTO. So let's start right away into it. No time for compromise. To me, especially in case of some sort of, I call it mini CTO, meaning the role of people in the startups. What I see quite often is that these people are not keen to leave the technical field in their domain, meaning they are the ones who still work on the code level, doing the code reviews and so on and so forth, which unfortunately, I would say it's a nice thing. It's great that, you are very knowledgeable in certain domain, meaning technology. On the other hand, if you are in front of entering some sort of investment series or whatsoever, you should be rather focused on the strategy as opposed to some operational work. So usually that's the number one thing, because if by any chance you get the investment, then you are in real shits with this, pull request approach, because you should be focused really on the strategy as opposed to helping people with resolving their technical issues. And so that's usually the one of the things that we are trying to solve with the new CTOs.
Sorry,
Yeah.
we can pause it here for a minute, because often people hear the word strategy, and it's probably a lot of things to a lot of people. So, how can someone go from coding and doing code reviews to suddenly strategizing? Like, do you just sit around, with some people, and you have a paper, you start thinking about vision and things, or what would you do?
Well, of course, it depends on the company size and setting and the situation. Nevertheless, to me, the definition of the strategy is some sort of formal statement how we want to achieve our company's vision and mission. Usually, the strategy covers a set of initiatives that we want to run in the area or long run of 2 years in order to meet our vision. So it's a very specific and concrete document. Pay attention, please, to one fact: it's not set in stone. The strategy should be, changed and adjusted depending on, how the business changes. Nevertheless, on the other hand, please avoid the companies that state the words that we are a dynamic company too much, because that means that, there is no good enough level of consistency, which is yet another sort of downside. So coming back to the strategy itself and the orientation of that, it's really what you've said, Michal. It's about sitting with the right people, with the stakeholders, making sure that we understand our company's vision and mission and our needs, basically. And the strategy tells us how we want to achieve our goals, speaking high level. We don't want to go into the details of some sort of stories and running sprints or whatsoever. These are just technical operations. So that's basically it.
Awesome. Good, cool. So coming back to these mistakes, not having this is the first one. What about the other mistakes?
Basically, sometimes what I see is that people think in terms of them being CTOs that their primary team is these people that they have in their organizational structure, which is usually one of the top mistakes, because your team is the leadership team, right? In other words, the way how I try to explain it to people is that it's to me, to default, it's a standard that your structure runs well, right? You shouldn't be focused or obsessed too much on in this area. What I suggest to do instead is basically to create and make sure that you have the right people around you with whom you can build the strategy and so on and so forth. So basically that's by the way, that's a nice segue to a third element of the biggest mistake that I see quite often, which is people are jumping right away into operational execution as opposed to dedicating time to build relationships. Specifically speaking, with the stakeholders, with other people around, with people who have something to say, because when shit hits the fan, usually you need people you have a relationship with. Otherwise, you will not survive. For within the first 6 months. That's basically my lesson learned. So in other words, even though the title stands Chief Technical Officer, in the end of the day, the technology, I don't want to be too vocal about it, but it's not that much important or relevant as opposed to having the right relationship, because nobody's going to listen about whether that's microservices or monolith or Kubernetes or whatever you need. What's the most important is to have the alignment on the level of the strategy, to have the right people around, so you can execute the strategy as such. Yeah.
It's interesting that you say this, because as the CTO climbs the career ladder, the immediate circle is the developers, the senior tech leads, the engineering leads, right? And suddenly the team changes. Now you say that suddenly the new team is the other C levels, right? The CFO, CMO.
Yeah. And this is very true. Again, if you don't build the right relationship with your peers, then basically you are done, because you are just usually we are saying you are just a good shovel. Meaning your structure works well, but that's not what we are here for, because the title is basically you are part of the executive board. That being said, you should be able to run the execution itself, right? Yeah.
Some CTOs may also struggle in the boardroom because they don't really speak the executive language, and they may be left behind when the CFO, CMO, CRO, CEO
absolutely
about some projects, strategies, and profitability and whatnot. And then there is this CTO just sitting there. Like, is this happening also, and how to overcome this challenge?
I think it's a pretty natural situation that occurs, because let's be honest, usually people coming to the CTO level are the ones who are coming from the group of nerds and geeks and introverts. I raise my hand here as well. I know how it feels. And there is one thing which is really important, and that comes especially in case that the CTO is in this role for the first time. That being said, offering that person some sort of a strong support in terms of the communication language and their communication skills. Usually the one thing that works for me the most and the best is that these people are basically capable to talk numbers as opposed to talk gut feelings. So the number one thing that I'm suggesting usually is that let's create the top 5 KPIs that are telling us that our development and product development teams are running properly, and we are capable to achieve our results and our roadmaps. And this is the way how you basically create the bonds and the introduction, speaking on the board level. Yeah.
Interesting. Awesome. Cool. So coming back to these mistakes, you mentioned 3 of them. Are there some other mistakes that you see based on your experience working with all of these?
Yeah. Thank you, Mikhail. So basically, we covered the communication one, which was really one of the things. There is usually again another I would say mistake that I see occurring quite a lot, which is that people are the CTOs are not making changes in a persistent manner. What I mean by that is that usually people have a variety of things that they are capable or looking forward to improve. Nevertheless, doing too many changes at the same time usually is not the best strategy. Having no focus, of course, and I would say this advice applies generally. So what I suggest doing instead is to pick, I would say, one smaller change that you want to execute within the first 3 months, and let's say a bigger one that you want to execute within the next, I would say, up to 6 months. And the differentiation here is that I want to really see that this change is fully adopted and persistent. That being said, after we say the change has been adopted fully or done, it doesn't deteriorate 2 weeks or 2 weeks after. You know how it feels and you know how it goes, because in this case you basically signal to your environment that you are not reliable or consistent, which is one of the usual mistakes that we see happening. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I guess there are lots of mistakes that CTOs make, especially in their first 30 days or 100 days.
Yeah.
Is there any one that still comes to top of your mind, or shall we rather focus on how to overcome some of these challenges?
Let's drive away right to some system that will allow us to basically reduce these mistakes and eliminate some sort of problems in order to make sure that we land as the CTOs in this role pretty well at the first sight.
Yeah, awesome. So how to actually survive the first 30 days or 90 days or 100 days or whatever is traditional?
Yeah. Some people call it the first 3 months, first 90 days, first, I don't know, 100 days, whatever. So basically, if I imagine myself hypothetically being the owner of the company and hiring the new CTO, or me being a CTO, and I want to make sure that I land my probation period and the job properly as expected. I should be having certain, I would say, strategy around it or system, better to say, right? And here we can describe some specific system that I created and I have in mind, which is really about making sure that we meet the expectations and the criteria. So to me, before we dive into the specific months, there is some ignition or initiation phase, let's put it this way, which to me is really more about making sure that, for example, the new CEO is capable to basically give you the playground or offer you the playground. What I mean by that is that usually the CTO role is not here about micromanaging the CTO. It's more about giving them the power to executing the strategy and creating the right environment for the technical development, right? So basically offering the playground, that's one of the, I would say, top suggestions I would have if I would want to hire a meaningful CTO. The other thing is that basically I would want to do some sort of gentleman agreement or contract. I would say that's a much better way of what a new CTO will deliver within the first 3 months, month on month. To be very specific, and here's my suggestion: you should really one of the first things that you should be doing is to set these sort of milestones into each other's people calendars, just to make sure that it creates some sort of a psychological moment, if you know what I mean. To make sure that there will be some sort of checkpoints that we will go through and that will be required, basically. It already creates some sort of a stability and challenge at the same time.
It's actually a great idea with these checkpoints. I've seen it with our recruiting clients. We often give them some training to go through. And if there are no checkpoints, no milestones or some meeting in place, then usually they just don't.
As
soon as there is something in the calendar, some meeting or whatever, then suddenly everything happens much smoother.
I mean, having or hiring a new CTO, it's also a change. It's also some sort of a company change, right? And if you want to make changes and execute them well, then the number one axiom that we should stick to is that things should have an end and a beginning. So this is basically what it is, right? That being said, regarding these checkpoints, of course, these checkpoints should be having certain, I would say, expectations tied to them. We can talk about some sort of KPIs or some sort of a binary results that we expect to see in real. For example, what I want to see within the first month is not really a person who's jumping right away into operational stuff, as we were saying, but rather creating relationships. So that's the number one thing. And I want to see that, for example, within the first 2 weeks, the new CTO is creating their relationship across the company while trying to understand our current business model and our product strategy, our business strategy, our go-to-market strategy, eventually our technical strategy that is eventually existing, right? So understanding I would say the background, the company background, the current status quo, while creating solid relationships, that's the number one thing to do. And here, allow me to put some small advice. If, for example, I'm having some sort of informal lunch with a new chief marketing officer that I see for the first time or something, usually I want to finish my talk by asking a very simple sentence, which is, how do you want me to help you, Michal? Right? So this way you signal that you are open to some sort of a mutual help, as opposed to just tell me how it is.
Yeah.
And hopefully things will get well. That's not like professional behavior, in my opinion, right?
That's a good one. And sometimes new managers, including CTOs, who are usually big fans of technology, they would like to also change some pieces of the technology stack. Is something that you would suggest to be more cautious about, or what approach?
Right. So whatever change we apply, or whatever change we would plan to apply in the new executive role, especially in the role of the CTO, I would be very cautious to do some sort of first site changes within the first month or first 2 months. Sometimes people have some sort of urge to demonstrate their skills. Usually the number one thing that I see is called, let's change our organizational structure. Which is something that makes me smile. Nevertheless, I would say the final contract that I want to see in the first 3 months, to be honest, is usually I'm asking the CTO to come up with some sort of internal audit. That would be my final proposal. Please, Michael, you're in the CTO role here as a new person for the first time. So I want to see that you come back to me with the results of your internal audit within 3 months. Of course, we will update each other on how things are going and what are your preliminary results. But let's see how it goes. And after 3 months, you will present your proposal, your findings, that are not only gut feelings, but optionally, but also data-driven as well. And you will present us, I mean, to the whole executive board, for example, your proposal in terms of the timeline and the roadmap, as your suggestion that what are the things or some sort of improvement roadmap or timeline that you suggest to improve or change in order to be more compatible with our strategy, our vision, or the way how we work, right? So this is the way how usually I advise people to start or to consider starting within the new role, because this is the way how you play, I would say, the game as a professional, as a pro, how you play a higher game, as opposed just to say, okay, so I'm a new CTO, so hopefully things will get well, right? So and it also sort of gives you some sort of constraints. I mean, here positive constraints about not being too much, not about having too much of the urge to change things from one day to another. because of course in the end of the day you want to make certain things that are high impact changes in a pretty thought through manner, as opposed to just demonstrate your ability to raise your hand or your voice, basically.
Yeah, or the ability to demonstrate the technical skills versus the
whatever. Right. This is actually a curious thing. Just today I had a great meetup with one of the CTOs. Actually, we created some sort of a 10-day workshop for the starting mini CTOs, and the number one thing which we were saying there is that exactly as I was saying, although we have the technical officer in the title, most of the time it's not about technicalities. Of course, you're responsible for the technical advancements, for the technical debt, for the software architecture and so on and so forth. But believe me, it's great to have a deep overview or background about it, but it's not your number one thing to take care of this aspect of things. Yeah.
Awesome. So on this note, then, what is your view on the business education, like the MBA or executive MBA programs? Is this something you advise for people to enroll in?
Not really. Sorry to say it. I know there's quite a lot of companies that offer these sort of shiny titles. I wouldn't say it's a waste of time, to be honest, because I know very well that these sort of programs ensure that you are covered from the practical aspect as well. Being it's not just a theory, but things that end up being very highly practical. Plus, I wouldn't basically deteriorate or diminish the value of networking, because you can create pretty strong network and bonds at these basically events and conferences and educational matters. Nevertheless, to be honest, I'm not really a person who likes these sort of educational matters that you end up by having certain titles or certificates. That's something that I'm not really compatible with, to be honest. So that's my subjective point of view, basically. Yeah.
In the technology space, it's kind of easy because there are so many different courses and you can learn on the job. But with the business stuff, it's probably more difficult.
What I would suggest doing instead is to really focusing on some sort of a proven courses for communication skills, for negotiation skills. For example, what I want to see in the role of the CTO, that a CTO can speak numbers, specifically dollars, because usually that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see or witness, meaning the CTOs are not capable, not speaking about their reports, to basically sell me their technical debt or why I should be investing into that. Because it's just gut feelings and they are saying, okay, this will help here and there. But if you are not talking numbers, optimally dollars, I'm not listening to you. Right. So to me, that's usually the number one thing that I would go for. For example, I know for sure that, for example, Harvard Business Schools offers one of the top negotiation skills courses for these situations and so forth.
Awesome, wonderful. So on this note, also some people are in their first 30 days or 90 days, but a lot of other people are kind of at the end of their tenure and they are looking for the next opportunity. So how do you suggest people go from one job to another, especially if they are not CTOs just yet and they are looking for ways how to prepare for the next opportunity, how to level up the game, how to go from managing a smaller team to managing a bigger team, like working with some people who are going through these changes?
Yeah, precisely. And I have some of my mentees are at this stage where they are going basically moving from let's say the role of the VP engineering to the CTO role and some sort of scale ups. Plus, we have a couple of situations where basically people are, let's be honest, moving from one company to another. So that's pretty natural, and they want to make sure, again, as you were saying, landing the new opportunity as a pro as demanded. So that's 100% sure. So covering this aspect, basically, if I should suggest how to prepare yourself for a new CTO role, there is a couple of criteria that I'm looking forward basically to distinguish whether the CTO is basically the right role for you or not. To me, the number one thing is I want to see a proof where that will signal us that basically you contributed largely to some business or technical advancement in your previous or existing company. If you don't have this check or this experience, usually you are losing in terms of opportunities, right? To be very specific, for example, I want to see you being responsible for some reason or due to your technical or business excellence and experience, moving from the company from a monolith to microservices, or to help the company moving from 20 people in development to 100 people, or to create a robust career and learning framework across the whole company for product and development. So these are the very strong signals that tells us that you are the right person to be considered, right?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because it suggests that people can look at the career change from two angles. One is the intrinsic, it's like, hey, when is the good time for me? do I want more money right now, or do I want to relocate? And the other is when is the good time based on what I'm trying to achieve in the company. If I get the message right, like look at the achievements, and then as soon as you reach that achievement, that milestone, then it's probably the right time to change because you have something to demonstrate to the employer. Do I get it right?
Absolutely. And here the caveat is that basically you shouldn't be waiting sort of passively for someone as your existing CTO to give you the privilege or to delegate some of the improvements over to you. It is you who should be asking to be part of these changes or eventually to lead the change as such. It doesn't mean that you have to basically execute the change on your own. You're just having the ownership, you know what I mean? It is there's a big difference. Basically, you are making sure that this change propagates properly, right? So the sort of a proactive approach, that's something that is quite crucial here. And again, I want to see certain proactivity in the CTO role, no surprise. Because let's be honest, people who are entering or considering the CTO role are people who are roughly 35, 40 years old. And every year counts, you know what I mean? So waiting passively for opportunities coming, from out of the blue, that's not the best approach.
Yeah, that's true. And based on your experience, how do people actually land these jobs? Do they wait for headhunters, or are they actively looking for these opportunities? How do they get these really good CTO level jobs?
I would say there are three basically streams that I foresee. The number one stream is that some of people grow naturally to the role within the company where their potential is recognized. They have a great, let's say, opportunity and help from the company itself, providing these sort of, experience courses, knowledge and learning. And basically, that gives you the opportunity to move forward, right? The other element is, of course, when you move from company A to company B. And here I would say it's 50-50, meaning either people are hired from, from the side of the headhunters being sort of nudged about like, you have the potential. What's sort of funny is that sometimes I see that people don't recognize their own potential. It's the headhunters who sort of nudge them to, hey man, wake up. You have grown up to the role and you might be the right fit.
Nice.
And sometimes it's the people themselves that they are sort of ambitious enough and proactive enough to say, okay, I was head of development in 20 people company. Eventually now it's time for me to move to 100 people company to have experience because the company that I'm within is currently sort of growing organically. Therefore, I will have no let's say opportunity to experience this sort of growth, right? Or this sort of size. Yeah. So that's basically the sort of portfolio how to get in. Yeah.
And in order to go from the company where the head of development, the director manages, say, 20 people, and would like to go to a company where he would manage 80 or 100 people, is that shift difficult? Is this something that needs to be prepared for? Is there any these candidate would need to demonstrate?
Yeah. I had a very same situation or similar situation, I would say roughly a week ago when I was interviewing externally one of the potential CTOs for one of the companies. And basically, my answer is this. There are people who are great for the CTO role with the limit to a certain size of the company. For example, this person, he was really great at being the CTO for, let's say, 20-25 size team of developers. I wouldn't go over it. The reason why is that that person was great at operating the people, the system, the flow, the way how we develop. He was very deeply technical. Nevertheless, he had no experience in scaling the company, which is creating systems that really allow you to scale and to double or triple the amount of the teams within the 2 or 3 years. It's a very different discipline. Consider it as a change from keeping the lights on while developing new features consistently versus really scaling the company. Meaning, imagine, for example, that I experienced landing one new team per month for during 2022 or 23, right? So that's a very different skill set that you need, that you demand in order to make sure that the company survives this sort of basically frequency or speed.
It's madness, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it madness. It demands certain, let's say, characteristics. For example, here, if I would be looking for somebody who will help me scale the company, I wouldn't go for the CTO who is process obsessed. I would rather go for the person who's leadership and culture obsessed. Right?
Interesting.
So, because these are the principles that scale. If I create sort of processes that eventually help you getting faster, but not scaling, because processes will actually block you from, doing the scalability, then we have a problem, right? So just make sure that you pick the right people with the right, I would say, characteristics for the job that is in front of you. And that's the job of the, let's say, the founder of or the CEO of the company, to identify what's coming in 2 years from now, where the next investment is coming, when are we going to scale, or whether we are going to grow just organically for another 2 years, and so on. Yeah.
Interesting. And you organize this leadership community event, so you know about the community in the Czech Republic mostly, right? So
yeah.
how many great CTOs are in the Czech Republic? Just from top of head, like what do they say? Like 50, 500, 5,000?
I would say the number one message, I would say it's hugely positive. We have quite a lot of talent here and quite a lot of great CTOs, I have to say. And I'm really proud saying that, because what I'm saying is that the way how we want to create Silicon Valley in Central Europe is not by the developers or adding more food into the forest. Now is the time to basically play a bigger game and a better game on the management, mid-level management and the top-level management level. That's where we are lacking, because the development talent in Central Europe is already here, but we want to improve, the leadership game here, right? That being said, we already have really great examples of great CTOs, or basically great executive people within Central Europe, which is basically demonstrated by a success of a couple of unicorns in Central Europe, such as Product Board, such as Muse, and so on and so forth. There are more basically companies and VCs and scale-ups that are getting huge financial injections, meaning investments, although we are sort of living in sort of a pretty careful market and cautious market. But I see that, actually people, there are new Googles and new Amazons that are just raising here, and people with great skill sets on the executive level are getting great, fantastic offers. That's what I witness these days. And I think you might double down on that from your experience.
Yeah, well, the market is not dying as some people may perceive, with the layoffs happening last year in the United States, some of them in Europe, but also lots of the CTOs are being hired in the Czech Republic, in Central Europe, also in Western Europe as well. We keep monitoring the market, and we see hundreds of being promoted and getting new jobs.
Yeah, so precisely. Yeah.
Awesome. So is there anything else you would like to say as a kind of last advice before we wrap it up? Something that you would like all these CTOs to know and consider before they make their next career move?
I would say my message is please be systematic, be consistent. It's not a trial and error game anymore at this level, right? So if you come to me, imagine, I'm a founder of the company, and you come to me as a new potential CTO, I want to see you are a thought-through person who comes to me with a proposal of I will do an internal audit for you. I will improve the things how they are supposed to be going, aligning that with our business strategy, and basically making